Be part of a worldwide community of over 100,000 people and enjoy exclusive benefits while protecting the activities we love. RYA membership, your route to expert advice. Become a member today. You're listening to the RYA 150 podcast, hosted by record-breaking British yachtswoman Dee Kafari, marking 150 years of sailing heritage and future inspiration.
Well, technology is shaping the way we sail and the way we enjoy our sport on the water, and it's evolving every year. And I'm delighted to be diving in with experts in the field, with our guests. I've got Max Rivers, Deputy Race Manager for the Clipper Round the World race, was a former skipper, so has used the tech and is now helping others use the tech. I've got a tech guru with Alex Collard, who can explain how we're meant to be using the tech.
No pressure.
And then, yes, indeed. And then Tom Herbert-Evans from SailGP. Now we see this high cutting edge technology on our screens at all the events each year. And Tom's going to talk to us about what that tech is and how it's filtering down, or if it's filtering down. So I'm going to start with you, Max, because you have literally just said goodbye to your fleet and you know what that was like, because last race you were that person setting off with your people. How old are the boats and how do you keep your boats current?
So these boats were introduced around the 2010s and have done now 5 circumnavigations. So
I mean, that's a lot of miles for somebody to think that they're going to be safe and have cutting edge technology help them.
Yeah, so they were built with this in mind. So the original design obviously had the idea of doing multiple circumnavigations at the heart of its build. So when they designed it, that was a key part. Every year they complete their race, they come back, they go through a full year's refit. And in that we do the technology side of it, we do structural sides, we make sure everything's working, we drop rigs, we do a full rig check, like really in depth. All the running rigging gets changed, all the sails get changed. So all of that stuff is checked over. And we are slowly progressing with our tech, and we're the first to admit we're not at the forefront of technology, but we are progressing in ways. So this year we've introduced Starlink to the boats for the first time, which I'm sure everyone's very familiar with. We've introduced Iridium Certus, so we're starting to change the technology we have on board to mirror slowly but steadily, hopefully part of that trickle-down effect. We're getting it just starting to appear into our boats. And that 1 year cycle is really important for us to make sure we're staying up to date, but we don't want to be pushing too far to the front, because redundancy and safety is at the forefront of everything we do. We're not sort of at the bleeding edge of everything, but we want that reliable tech once it's trickled down, and we've got the reliability.
So it's interesting because you're taking your amateurs with your professional crew around the world, and at the other end of the field, Tom, you've got the world's best sailors using cutting edge tech that we see on our screens and think, wow, they're like flying. It's not even sailing that I recognize.
Yeah, I suppose it's interesting, actually. You think about Clipper, you're going offshore over the horizon. SailGP is literally a football pitch on the water right in front of people who can see it. And we keep saying to people, are you coming to watch the racing? What do you mean, watch them go over the horizon and across the Atlantic? No, they're going to be in front of you in Portsmouth. So there's a little bit of kind of interesting kind of feedback from the community that, and then using this live line technology that we would have seen the graphics on TV to then explain. My mum is watching it from Wales, right? She hasn't got a clue about boats, but now she understands a bit about sailing. So it is subtly getting people to wake up to what sailing is, I think.
And it's interesting with that comment, just because I've been lucky enough, and I hate this analogy where we put sailing against Formula One, because it isn't the same at all. But when you go to Formula One, it's amazing atmosphere and it's super exciting, but you literally go like that and it's all gone.
Yeah.
And you literally sit in front of a screen, which you could do in your front room. So there's a little bit of, with the technology that you have on the screen, it's almost easier to understand the racing with the commentary on a screen than it is sat in the stadium.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's complicated with SailGP because we've got things that move, marks, etc. The boats move. When you see graphics actually on any race cars, they're fixed graphics on a screen. So what's happening with SailGP, the helicopter is basically acting like a projector, and it's projecting from this very high accurate GPS onto the water, picks up a point off the boat and the marks. And when you watch it on TV, it is just like a rugby pitch or a football pitch. You hit the sideline, you get a penalty, and you have to come back into the course. So that's what makes it easy for us to watch. And you're right, I actually went to the Abu Dhabi Formula One and I was ready to watch the racing, but nobody was watching it. They were just watching it on a screen. Now, when I went down to Port's SailGP, it's brilliant because you can actually see everything on the track in front of you. So we're getting that combination of looking at the screen, checking the graphics, and then looking back onto the water to see what's going on and making a sense of this zigzagging thing we've got in our sport.
Yeah, and it's a super complex sport, and your average sailor doesn't go around the world with the Clipper race. It doesn't sail GP. It's cruising, and actually, Garmin, you are providing all this technology for everyday use. How easy or how difficult is that? I'm somebody that has to come in and have lessons on how to use some of the tech that you provide.
Anytime. We're a one-stop shop. Yeah, I mean, the products have been on the Clipper boats now for a number of races for a number of years. The sailing side of things for Garmin is a growing market all the time. We strive to bring easy to use products to market, innovative products. We have sailing tech that can be used from the watch, from a chart plotter, from instrumentation, and so integration is also a big thing for us as well, to make sure that everything kind of ties in nicely together, gives the user the best experience on the water. As you say, for the leisure customer, they probably only spend maybe 3 or 4 days a month on the boat, the weekends, and so every time they come down to the boat, we want it to be as easy, as intuitive to use as possible, so that they can make the most of their time on the water, and also getting the right information to them as well.
And have you found that the smartwatch, is
I can see
key?
we've all got one.
Yeah,
we need to get something for you.
Tom purposely didn't wear a watch. But it's people are happy with it. They use it for their training, they use it for their running, their swimming, their cycling, all that. So that transferable use of having the same stuff that they're familiar with actually work with their sailing, do you think that helps?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, so the watches, I mean, if we designed a watch for every activity, you'd have arms and legs full of watches, and we know that if you're a sailor, then perhaps you're a keen runner, or you're not just interested in one particular activity. So yes, a smartwatch being able to do all of the smart feature sets and functionality, and if somebody's using it for running and everything else, then yes, being able to transfer that onto something that they can use on the boat is very familiar to them, and as again, it's easy to use. You can stream boat data from the vessel to the watch, SOG and COG, wind information, that kind of thing. You can control your autopilot as well, if you enable autopilot, which is very James Bond, to give that a try. This watch in particular is the Quatix 8. I think of you wearing the Quatix 8 as well. Excellent. Although my strap's a bit sporty, you've gone for the marine blue, which is very good.
Blends.
Yes. New Quatix 8, available in a couple of sizes, but it's actually made, the housing is also actually made from ocean-bound plastic, which is also a very key thing that I wanted to mention. Long battery life, AMOLED display, so a very clear display as well, and packed with sailing features, so virtual start line, countdown timer. Again, you can stream the wind information down to it as well. Very clever tech.
And those fundamentals are used by your average SailGP. It's time to burn. It's all those little details, the same as you guys. And safety is paramount. So how does your tech make your crews safe going around the world?
Number of things. So we've got beacons now in all our life jackets, as most good sailors do nowadays while they're offshore. So everyone's got beacons. I mentioned earlier this new Starlink system we've got. So we've got the traditional GMDSS suite with the phones and everything else going off the Certus satellite. But what we found is actually, the boat phones me and I get the emergency phone call. This has happened, whatever the case is. I call them back on WhatsApp. It's faster, it's less delay, it's a much better connection.
Again, something that everyone's used to using.
Everyone's used to using, super easy. I can give them a call back, and then we can share photos. They can share photos with doctors super quickly. they've been, as of this morning, been sharing photos of torn sails with our sail repair guy in the Philippines, and it's been, it's super fast to be able to get that response back, and that safety features, engine issues, generator issues, send an image to the maintenance team. We don't have the SailGP guys right next to us, but we can create that in a digital environment by just sending a photo to them.
RYA courses and qualifications. From beginners to professionals, with more than 100 courses to choose from, there's something for everyone. Visit rya.org.uk to learn more.
And how do you police something that has no outside assistance when they're all going around the world on WhatsApp?
So I can read my mind. This has been the last couple of months of myself, my colleague Hannah and Dale. This is a massive discussion with us on how we make a fair, uniform race, which is at the core of everything we do, is safety and also fairness, and making sure we've got an equal fleet. All the fleet gets sent the same weather information, get the same information across the board in terms of positions every hour, or every 6 hours, whatever the case may be. And making sure that's fair is at the core of everything we do. And it's been really tricky to balance out. What we don't have is our crew do not have access to WhatsApp. So crew just have their normal boat email, as you would do if you're on any sort of offshore racing. Only the skipper and mate have access to WhatsApp, so that already limits it down by a significant margin. The skipper and mate are aware of the rules, and we've talked to them about this, and a couple of them have declared, somebody accidentally sent them a windy screenshot or something. Mistakes happen. People aren't aware of the rules on board if it's a supporter from back home. So we're trying to balance that out. I can't say we've come to a solution yet, but we're working on one actively. And I mean, in the last stopover in Spain, we were talking about, right, do we change channels? Do we change to something like Signal or Telegram or something like that? But actually the functionality of WhatsApp, everybody's got it on their phones already. It's just too easy. So now we're playing with different ideas. And at the moment, we allow them to self-police. With the crew they have on board, we know if they were to start pushing or breaking the rules, it's not going to stay a secret for long. We're going to find out about it, and we're going to have a conversation with them about what that means going forward. So we've found we don't need to do anything about it, but it's now a massive part of our safety feature and our safety suite on board is that ability to communicate about broken winches, about people going over the side. We've got beacons, we've got the Garmin system. I mean, it's all built in. You're on the chart plotter on deck, bang, SOS, person in the water, drops the mark, super easy. We've got the down buoy deployed with an AS beacon on it. We've got 2 points in the water to an MOB recovery. And we do a live training with that. Back here when we were in the Solent, we worked with Solent Coast Guard and said, look, we're going to do this live test, physically pull the thing on the AS beacon, get it working so that the crews understand when it pops up on their screen, what does that mean? Do I accept? Do I decline? How do I do the VHF calls? What does that actually mean? Does it go external? Knowing that an AS beacon, only if you pull it and you've done it right and it's the MMS size to the boat and that, all that stuff needs to be checked, and the crew need to understand that, okay, right, if it doesn't go off, I need to press the button on the AIS beacon, and that's going to, understanding all that is paramount for our crew.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
Do they use the part of that training? Do they use the SOS button on the chart plotter as well?
Yeah, touchscreen, bottom right,
Yeah,
top left,
it comes up with what type of
scenario where you man overboard, and then it brings you up all the relevant information. And
we actually have a POB button on the F50s, so we never used it in anger because
they're all attached.
They're all attached, so
yes,
it'd be hard to fall off because you've got the tether basically. But because we're in such a compressed course, if somebody did fall off, all boats have to stop, come off the foils, cancel the race, and then collect the individual, restart the racing. So that's all linked to the live line telemetry as well. That's where you see the red lights going for the umpire calls, the boundary penalties, which is the green light. And there is another light for POB, but we haven't seen it yet. But
and that's just a singular button on the boats.
Yeah, okay. And I think Race Management can also issue it to all the boats as well.
Okay.
But yeah, that's interesting. We've also got something else from a safety perspective, which we haven't talked about very much, but there's some kind of, and I'm not familiar with it because I haven't had a chance to use it myself, sadly. But basically, any boats coming on port tack, it signals a siren in the headset of the boat on starboard, so they can see or hear that the boat's coming, because there's a blind spot on the F50 because of this, end plate effect of the wind, so you can't see through the wing. So we've now got a siren if there's a collision course at risk on the race course, and it's effectively an AI iteration of the port starboard rule. So you just get a little bleep come in, gets louder. Okay, there must be a boat crossing with us. So that's quite a cool thing
And
that's going on.
when is that being introduced, or has it been introduced?
Yeah, this weekend, Geneva. I think it probably in the last 6 months, I think it's been on board, but this weekend, Geneva, you might hear it on the onboard comms. If there's a crossing situation, you'll hear the bleep. Now, in Saint-Tropez last weekend, God, the Swiss and I think the Danish nearly collided, so obviously wasn't working that well, but the closing speeds were they were doing 50 knots downwind. It was crazy.
And also the volume anyway on the boat, let alone adding some more beeps in. I guess the sailors almost filter it out sometimes.
I mean, upwind, you can get up to 64 knots of apparent on the deck, which is a Cat 1 hurricane. So there's so much wind, there's just so much noise as it is. So yeah, there's tons going on. With now 13 boats, we've got a new boat announced today. It's going to be the Swedish team joining SailGP. So it's going to be a busy season next year. So we're going to need more of this kind of safety software integration, I think.
But nothing visually at the moment.
Every boat has then got kind of a heads-up television screen that sits in the base of the wing. So you can see the GPS plant of all the other racing vessels, including the marks. So you can see that, but sometimes you're just so dialed in. There's so much going on.
Yeah.
You might miss something.
And with 13 boats, the race course is not getting any bigger.
It's actually the width is the important thing of the racetrack. So they probably will increase the start line length, the width of the course. But some venues, you've got some real, Saint-Tropez is a good venue, but Halifax,
hard stops.
there's some edges, So, and I think it depends on the wind strength then as well. So that's there's a consideration whether they should do a split fleet in the future or keep all boats together. So they're looking at that now.
And it's interesting. We've got two ends of the spectrum talking about safety. You're the guys that provide a lot of the equipment. How important is that safety aspect for you? Not just, does my chart plotter work on my phone, on my watch, but actually, how are we helping people stay safe?
So, yeah, safety is really important. So the watch can also kind of act as a little bit of an MOB trigger as well. So it links wirelessly to the chart plotter. If that connection is removed, then, there's a visual aid that comes up on the display as well. You can also mark the MOBs from the watch too. The equipment itself, obviously, we provide a suite of products. So you've got your VHF there as well. You've got the SOS button on the chart plotter, something that you never hope you have to use, but it's there if you need it. So you can, especially for those people that, maybe the skipper's gone over, or, you want something that's, big red button. What do I need to push? And that's what it is. And then you can select the type of emergency, and it brings up call sign, MMSI, and it gives you a script essentially that you can read out over the VHF to make it as simple and easy as possible. There's what else have we got from a safety perspective? The kit itself, right, is designed to keep you safe on the water. The charting, the wind information, it all feeds into the chart plotter or via instrumentation, and that in itself is obviously designed to keep people safe.
And so much for your cruise, Max, is about the weather and not putting yourself actively in danger, but making the best of what's coming. Mm-hmm. How do you manage that information? You said that you give them the weather twice a day.
So we have Simon Rowell, the weather forecaster for the British sailing team, fantastic weather forecaster, and he provides
And around the world skipper.
winning skipper as well. He won, didn't he? He every morning will send 7 emails to the whole fleet, and that has synoptic charts, that has various weather files from different models, current information and wave information, and we make sure the fleet gets it in the same grid format, and that plugs into time zero, and that projects on the time zero so they can run routing software if they want to. So we make sure it's even, we make sure it's fair, and the fleet can do what they want with that information. He always gives them a bit of chat as well about what's happening, where monsoon troughs are, and all the rest of it. Waste stuff that's really high-end weather forecasting, but it's great. It's really good to have that information and work from that. And he's really good. He also sits on the race committee, so he's as a race winning skipper, he's one of the race committee. So if you have a question that you ask him from one of the boats, we make sure he will make sure he replies to the whole fleet in return. So if it's something he thinks will benefit everybody, he'll send a return reply, and that He then works with us from the shore side, looking at potential issues about departing if there's a particularly big system coming in on the 23-24 race. We had a cyclone coming towards Airlie Beach, and we had to make the call: do we depart? Do we wait? The boats are built to be sailed in these conditions. Then they would handle it fine, but it was just about the point where we were going to be transiting the reef outside Airlie Beach, so it was a bit of a question mark, and we decided to delay the fleet. So he works from us shore side and works with the race director and myself and Hannah, our race manager, to make sure that we're making intelligent calls about things like we have the doldrums motoring corridor, which is a device we have to make sure that we can transit the doldrums in a reasonable time so our crew aren't sat there for a long period of time. Because traditionally people have been caught there for a long time. We've obviously got a certain timeline to hit when we need to hit that. So he'll help us decide where to put that motoring corridor so the boats can motor for a certain amount of time, make sure they transit the doldrums and get out safely and continue racing, but make sure it's fair.
Yeah, and in the ocean, obviously, you can position yourself for the oncoming weather. SailGP doesn't get that flexibility. You are where it is, and you've got to suffer. And we've seen thunderstorms stop play. We've seen lightning strike boats. We've seen too much wind, too little wind. I mean, you're never happy, you experts.
Yeah, it's a funny old game, isn't it? You know, we were kind of the non-moving pin, and the weather's coming at us. This last weekend in Saint-Tropez, we had a thunderstorm coming through, and the safe decision was to cancel racing on race day 2. But it's actually incredible to think, if you go and use some of the Predict Winds, the Wind Gurus, the Windy Pros, it's amazing the software that you can have for weather predictions now. Anyone, or any of us on our phones, can look at what we expect to happen. And not only that, probably giving us 5 different models of what we expect to happen. So I think that's quite an exciting time for us. We have a weather committee, and they just study what's coming in. We're looking at performance weather this weekend in Geneva. Looks incredibly light all week. So there's key decisions for us to make now from a weather perspective on what foils do they put on, what wing do they put on. And those of you that don't know, in SailGP, we kind of had the ultimate stacked reefing system, but it's a wing. So you have to select which wing you want on the boat the day before racing. So they need to make basically a 24-hour decision on the weather for the next day of racing. And we've been close to getting that wrong in the past, but it's amazing. 7 years we've been going, and you think about the weather forecasting we've got at our fingertips now is fantastic. And this weekend they're also trialing, we've got the new light air foils and rudders, but they're looking at whether they can switch those if the forecast isn't what it said, between races potentially as well. So that's quite a new addition. So you can basically pull a foil out, put the new foil in on the water.
He makes it sound so easy. I know that when these decisions are made, the tech team stress because it's an all-nighter they have to pull between days.
Yeah, the wing stuff is pretty cool, because it's actually, people don't realize, it's a robot, the wing. So when we make a call on the wing, you have to basically detach the wing, remove the center section, put it back together, and it's kind of like a Russian doll in a way. Now, in year 1 of SailGP, the wing was a bit like a puppet. You know, it had these strings and rods going up through the wing, and now it's all fly-by-wire. So you just pop a wire off, reconnect a hydraulic actuator, and that's it. But there's 12 teams is the problem, so you're going through a night shift to get them ready for the next day of racing.
Yeah, and that's how you keep the one design element, because your tech team do all the changes, not the racing teams.
Yeah, so Russell Coutts is the boss of SailGP. He said the other day he thinks now the boat's probably the most one design boat, because the teams aren't allowed to actually assemble the boats anymore. But there's also a very technology driver behind the scenes. We have a set of designers, engineers who are constantly evolving the design. But if we change a button on the wheel, or if we change an element of hardware on the boat, every boat then needs to have the same change. So there's some very interesting developments on board the boat that they're planning for next year. So it'll be interesting to see what comes on next. So the foils is the new one.
Yeah. So you brought in the T rudders that you tested first, and then that came in, and so each year there seems to be the next level.
Yeah. The reason for the change with the hydrofoils,
because you really wanted to kill somebody.
Well, yeah, it's
scary as.
It's a scary thing, but and it looks scary, but the practicality of it's much more stable. The way the boat is flying compared to the L foils. It's a milled titanium brick, basically. and it takes about 16 weeks to build one foil. And the reason they've done that is the board's a little bit thinner, which basically enables a higher top speed, and it doesn't have this this kind of boil point, this cavitation point, as early as the L foil. So it's a safer at a higher top speed. But we just went to Sassnitz and did 56 knots, 103 kilometers an hour, which is there's no point having a chase boat on the water anymore, really.
Nothing can keep up.
Nothing can keep up. But on the opposite end of the spectrum, very controversial bit of tech that we're looking at adding is a propulsion system.
Yes, I have heard about this sailing race that wants to motor them up onto the foils if there's not enough wind.
Yeah, and it sounds very non-traditional, which it definitely is. But if you look at some of the wing foilers and some of the surf foilers, they're all using this little propeller at the top of the stem of the foil. And the idea is it will help the boat at least get foiling or at least fly a hull. And every team would be limited through software as to how much time they could use to basically boost themselves. Because there's nothing worse than us seeing our team at the back of the fleet and you're like, oh, and they're stuck in that dirty air. This gives them a chance to then get back into the racing. So they're experimenting with that for potentially next year. So we might see that coming on board the boat.
Okay.
So
and how much of this tech, because it all sounds really exciting and we watch it on TV and it's super exciting, how much of it actually filters down to your average sailor?
Yeah, there's some really interesting things there. So one of the, we have a partner with Mark Setbot. They're like a robotic, I think we're talking a lot about GPS and connectivity afloat. That's what's transforming all of these ideas, really. But we have a robotic mark partner. We've now got full automated robotic marks on the race course. And everyone thinks that's great because you can move the marks and the race management team are happy.
And that's all done remotely. It's controlled remotely.
There's somebody's job in SailGP. They sit on the side of the grandstand and they've got an iPad and they just drag their finger to position the mark. That's it. And then they get collected after racing. So that's the job I'm going for, by the way. Don't tell anybody. But actually the cool thing about the marks is they're actually mobile computers. So now we're taking wind telemetry, coming back to syncing with the weather forecast off each mark. We've got onboard cameras on the mark that integrate into the broadcast. So there's tons of really cool stuff that's going on there. It's not just the mark with an old school anchor and chain. It's become a robotic computer afloat.
And that data, is that accessible to the race teams or is it just to the race management at the moment?
The coaches now don't go on the water. They sit next to race management so they can see the heads-up telemetry of what the course is doing for the day. And they'll get a trigger from Ian and Mel, the race management team, if the course is moving. So that's quite interesting. And then I think the other cool bit, I've seen a lot of friends of mine, they're just racing in the switch class in Lake Garda. They're using this, like you got Vacaros or Sailmon, these small unit GPSs. Garmin have an example of it. Velocitech have done something similar, where now you can have your SailGP live line time to kill software on a dinghy, on an RS200. I think that's, if you've used it, wow, it's cool. It's a little bit addictive, actually. Now, that's where I'm seeing a bit of a trickle down to friends of mine starting to use the same software as SailGP is using. Yeah. And they don't need a helicopter.
Yeah, nice.
Which is good. So that is happening.
And just for you being front-facing, supplying the products, how important is ease of use? I mean,
very.
I mean, you're saying it's intuitive, but you live with it every day. To those people that don't find it intuitive, you're like, how is the kind of tutoring to get maximum use? I think we all use like just a fraction of what our watch is capable of, as an example.
Before I answer that question, I should probably come back to the safety element.
Yeah.
Because I'd probably be in very big trouble if I didn't mention the Garmin InReach, which also is a product that you have some experience with as well.
I know. I love this. And to the point where I took it sailing, it updates my track. Everyone knows where you are. You can message. I'm doing a hard sell here.
Yeah.
But then, my other half on his motorbike trip, I want one of those.
Yeah.
It covers everyone going up mountains, out to sea, whatever you want to do.
It'd be perfect for you guys as well because it's a two-way satellite communicator. So rather than being able to send a message to someone to say, I'm in distress, you actually get a response back from a service that's monitored all day, every day. Mm-hmm. So, you can get ones that are pretty small that could clip onto a life jacket, let's say, or you could ones that are a little bit bigger with maybe a chart and whatnot on it as well, from a navigation perspective. But yes, it's a great product, and it's not something you necessarily have to use while you're on the water. If you've got an active lifestyle and you like skiing, rock climbing, whatever it is, hiking, then it's a product you can take and utilize for that as well.
Yeah.
Using little text messages and bits and pieces.
Especially when you always go to get your phone and there's no signal, you're like,
yeah, perfect example of that. But anyway, sorry, yes. Back to your question on ease of use.
easy?
So I always use my parents as a good example of this, because my dad tends to have to do everything on the boat. He's got all the gear, a bit of an idea, but we have some great features and functions where screens are set up and changed in front of you without having to push buttons, for example. So, for a good example of that is when you can set a geofence around your berth, let's say, and you can customize and say, when I leave my berth and I set out and I start cruising, I want the screens to change to, a nice wind page and a chart and a radar or whatever. You can customize it to choose whatever you like. So back to my parent analogy, my mum can sit there, my dad can be on the bow doing the fenders and other bits and pieces, and they also wear these little headsets, bless them, to communicate. And then he's asking her for the information, and the screens have changed automatically, and all the information, the data fields, the wind data, everything's there, visible in front of them. She doesn't have to do anything. We put manuals on the products as well, so if you're on the product and you're not sure exactly what to do, how do I create a waypoint again, or how do I set this up, you can do a quick find on the manual and do it from there as well. But yeah, Garmin's all about making the products as easy as possible to use, limiting the number of button presses to get around the product. As I said before, we know that people don't always spend, hours at end with the products all the time. So when they do get on the water and they want to be able to use it, it's got to be easy. It's got to be intuitive. It's not something where they want to have to relearn every time they get down to the boat. So ease of use integration is huge. It's got to be simple.
And I think because the system you have is like, once you've got a GPS that you know how to use, or once you've got a watch, you recognize the same patterns in all the products. So it's that kind of comfortable aspect with that.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And I think just the way technology is moving forwards, I mean, it's fast, whether it's materials, whether it's telemetry, whether it's satellites. I mean, you already talked about going Starlink, and then now you've got to manage the fact that everyone can be connected all the time. The ultimate in sustainability has to be the fact that these boats are going for their 6th lap round the world now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you win the prize.
Yeah.
But how important is that for you guys to manage? Because, is sustainability a core value, or is it just a nature of it? We can upgrade these boats and we don't actually need to think about it.
We're trying to make it both, I think. We're trying to have it as a core value of ours, but we're also we're working behind the scenes in many different ways to try and make it something that comes naturally. We're talking about really low tech things. Our charts that have just come off the previous race, some of them have gone out of date. I've now, next to my desk, if anyone wants some charts, come see me. They're all out of date, but I've got this pile of charts, and I'm trying to find now, do we go to geography teachers? Do we find other sources, other places if somebody wants to wallpaper a bathroom, something like that that's going to make it, a usable bit of tech. We've got all our sales that have just come off.
Are you referring to paper charts?
Paper charts.
So how do you feel, just to interrupt on that, the fact that they are going to not produce paper charts for you?
That's fine. We're coming to terms with it. We understand it, and we've been using it parallel with Garmin and with Time Zero for long enough now that the boat has now so much redundancy built in as a core part of what we do. It's our primary source of navigation at the moment, but also it's becoming less and less as we carry charts for everywhere we go. But we understand this is something that is going to run out eventually.
Yeah.
In a slightly sort of selfish company way, it's going to save us a lot of money because they are expensive to print and they get wet very easily and all the rest of it. But I think we understand it's going to happen, and maybe we'll just find a different set form of redundancy with Garmin InReach, whether it's whatever else it might be. So charts, recycling those, sales, massive thing for us is sales every race. What do? We've given them a load away to a charity, and they're going to be turning them into bags or other things that we can then sell.
It'd be the kit bags for the crew for the next race.
Exactly, spot on. So again, we're trying to think about ways we can do with that. Marlow, we've been working with them on their blue line, so their recycled lines. I believe they sort of use ocean plastics to try and make these lines. And again, taking our lines back at the end of the race, giving them back to them. They do strength tests. It's a way of us feeding back into the industry with Garmin, with all of our partners we work with Spinlock, with Staylock, all of these partners we work with, giving them the kit back at the end and saying, well, would you like it back to do testing with, or is it something we work with? So, all our fittings at the end of the race go back and be melted down and created into whatever the next medal product is. We take all our, life jackets and we give a portion of them back to Spinlock. We keep the ones that are still working and going well. If we have any breakages, we give them to them, get the feedback from them. How else can we use that? So we're trying to build sustainability into everything we do, and it hurts us. And I know, I've had that moment of like throwing away old sails and going, oh, this feels really bad. But also looking at the fact it's torn, it's been repaired, it's sailed all the way around the world. That
you're not going to go again with it.
Not going to go away again with it, and it's going to take somebody, whoever that person is, so many hours to go through recycled sail and cut the usable bits out. And is that then worth their time and that? But we are building in to what we do, and we're making sure that the charts get recycled and the sails get recycled, and a number of other things I can't think of off the top of my head. Lines, we've got a mountain of lines set outside our maintenance shed at the moment, and we're shifting through, right, the boats can carry whatever spares they want. Who else can we give these lines to? And unfortunately weight's a consideration, so we're not shipping them around the world, but can we give them to local sailing clubs? But the lines we use aren't necessarily useful for normal boats in sort of inverted commas. But yeah, trying to find ways of being sustainable where possible. Technology that comes off the boat, if it hasn't been ruined, where can we recycle it into our training fleets? We've got a fleet of 68s, Clipper 68s, which previously did 4 editions of the race. They're still used as our training fleet. Well, can we trickle down that technology into them? What can we do to be sustainable? And we try not to waste anything, as all of us are in our daily lives, and try and make it more sustainable.
Yeah, and that's something with Garmin, you actually just get the updates or an additional feature that you can add in. It's not like, oh, your watch is now rubbish, you got to get a new one. You're actually really productive of that.
Yeah, 100%. They, through software. So you can, as long as it's connected to your phone, it will run automatically in terms of updates in the background. So yeah, as we know, tech moves super fast. So yeah, we don't want a customer to be able to buy a product and then 6 months' time is out of date. So yeah, through software we can keep driving new features, new functions, and keep it as current as possible. The cool thing with the watches, for example, and it goes for all of the technology, not just the watches. It's the chart plotters, it's the wind systems, it's the autopilots, it's all of the gadgets and gizmos that we can offer. A big part of it is software. For the big systems, it's kind of one big quarterly update a year. Some are kind of software heavy, some aren't, but it's introducing new features, new functionality sets all the time. There's so many activities on the watch, diving, running, anything fitness related, and it's just an easy way to be able to push new features. And it makes, when you've had a software update, it kind of does have the feel of a new product as well. So that's also a nice thing. But yeah, software is a huge thing.
I know actually with the integration, it's being used because so many sailors do wear the watch, and now because they speak to the instruments,
that's right,
they can actually set the face up for the bit that's relevant to them, because the driver looks at something different to the trimmer and the bowman looks at something different to the trimmer, and so everyone's got their own.
And it's handy if you're single-handed as well. You can pair it to something on the boat, and then wherever you are on the boat, you've got something, quick glance down at your wrist. And then racers, and you don't have to, if you get onto one of the Clipper boats, for example, and you have a watch already, then you can there's a Connect IQ store. It's an app that kind of links with the phone where you can download different activities, because people can create their own sailing or racing apps, if you like, and be able to put that into the community, and other people can download it and share it and utilize it, which is pretty cool.
Skipper's worst nightmare, or the crew connect all the instruments and start changing it.
Yeah, or you're like in your bunk trying to get some rest. Oh, I'll just have a little look.
Yeah,
I'm meant to be resting. I'm meant to be sleeping.
It gets addictive because there's so much data on your wrist, and that's accessible to you. You got to switch off from it as well, I suppose. But yeah, being able to go from boat to boat with the Garmin tech, connect your watch, and you're in.
It's amazing, actually. I look around at a lot of my friends who are just going for a weekend sail, no race, just going by themselves. You think about post-COVID, how many of them have got their Garmin watch and they're just posting the snail's trail of what they've been doing in Weymouth Harbour or whatever it is. It's a constant feed, isn't it? And that's quite a big change in our sport, I think. It's how many people are analysing their data from what they've done on the water through a watch or through a GPS device on board. And I suppose they're kind of self-studying what they're doing. Like, why did I do a loop there? And, oh, okay, I capsized.
It's
okay.
a good training metric, right?
It's incredible. I think the self-coaching stuff is a huge element of our sport now, just through devices and GPS or connectivity on the water. So I think that's quite an exciting development in the next 10 years, and whether you can use that with a bit of AI coaching software or whatever it is. But yeah, all I see on my Facebook feed is just, snails sailing trails, I suppose. But and I also find it's quite interesting because friends of mine are running, particularly through post-COVID, and I think a lot of the technology we have in our watches has really come from sailing. Really, it's a lat-long device, isn't it? It's a GPS device, which is then converting something into miles an hour or kilometers an hour, and we're all there laughing. We've been using knots for years, so it's quite cool to see people using it more and more now. But
and how transferable it is. Well, I mean, I could literally talk to you guys forever because there's so much tech and there's so much of the future. So the fact that you're getting people now going and experiencing it for the first time, the people that you deal with at the elite end of our sport showing us what's possible, because you literally break boundaries every season, which is great. And the fact that you can give us all the devices to allow us to aspire to be either end of the scale.
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for your time today. I appreciate that.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Learning to sail or sharpening your skills? The RYA shop has everything you need, from handbooks and training guides to the latest racing rules of sailing, plus ebooks and audiobooks you can take anywhere. Visit rya.org.uk/shop and set course for your next adventure.